Ed Bosch here in my minivan, asking, how are you doing? I'm really interested to know, how are you doing? We are reaching out to people and we are praying for people daily. And if you like, you can comment below how we can pray for you specifically, and we would love to pray. We would love to pray with you. But I want to ask you. I want to take a minute and ask you how you're doing, and really tell us, how are you doing? What's working for you these days? What are you doing to stay healthy? What's not working for you? Um, and I would ask you honestly, how are you doing in your mental arena? What does your internal monologue look like these days? What are you thinking as these days play out? The reason I ask is I ran into something really interesting in my study time, and it just got me thinking, and so I think it's really pertinent to where we're at today, and so I wanted to share and give you guys a chance to interact with these thoughts. So I want to ask, really, like, how is anyone dealing with maybe some fear, some anxiety? Because I just, we're global workers. Um, we work with the church, and so in that context, I know there's this idea that, well, you guys are Christians, and so if God is so great, then obviously you should never have any negative emotions whatsoever, and that's flat out not true. I've read a lot of encouragement in the Bible that says, don't be afraid, God is with you. I've yet to read the verse that says, ignore or disregard your negative emotions. We are told to process them. We are told to seek wisdom and counsel, and we're told to ultimately take those negative emotions to God Himself and allow Him to inform our actions thereafter. But the point is, anxiety can and fear, for many people, the experience is that it's something that holds fast with or without their intention. And I don't know if anyone identifies with that, or it's not a conscious decision. Well, I'm going to wake up and have a horrible day today. It's something that seems to hold fast and not want to let go. And I think in this season of uncertainty, in this season of, man, the economy's down, the medical system is facing some serious challenges. Our global communities are facing some incredible challenges. And we've got to be able to process this. We've got to be able to and not just talk about it for the sake of talking, but we've got to go through a process of understanding. A couple days ago, I put out this video about how the exile was part of the deal. It's not something that caught God off guard. It's not something that He was shocked by, like, oh my goodness, how did this happen? Now I've got to interact or intervene. When God said, you guys are going to be my people, He knew the adversity that was coming. Today we can glean from that when the Lord asked us to follow Him, this was always part of the deal. So that was a couple days ago, and I hope that came across well in terms of, I'm not calling this good. I'm not saying that this is a nice thing. This is horrific. People are dying. It's a horrible, sad, tragic situation globally. What I'm saying is that God knew this was coming, and He still asked us to follow Him. Now we're confronting this, and we're confronting I think for many people, I think it would be safe to say, we're confronting our fears. We're confronting some anxieties over our businesses, over our ministries, over overseas work. And that anxiety wants to have a tendency to latch on and not let go. And I read something this morning that was really, I think, pertinent, and so I want to share that. So we're getting to the end of the exile, not the exile, but the end of Jeremiah's ministry. And so towards the end of the book of the Old Testament called Jeremiah, this is kind of God's perspective on the exile and the horrific things that Israel as a nation went through. He's saying, I accounted for this when I asked you to be my nation, my people, my children. And I knew that because of free will and because of this fallen state of humanity, I knew that there's the probability of evil and bad things happening. So, but here's the deal. So Jeremiah 50, 33, 34 says, "This is what the Lord of heaven's armies says. The people of Israel and Judah," in other words, God's children, his nation in the Old Testament, "have been wronged." He says, "My people have been wronged. Their captors hold them and refuse to let go. But the one who redeems them is strong. His name is the Lord of heaven's armies." And so that's a really interesting idea, because he let them go into captivity. He knew what was happening. He let them go under Babylonian captivity, but he says their captors, they went too far. Their captors, it says, my people have been wrong. Their captors hold them and refuse to let go. So now it's no longer about Babylon being obedient in God's scheme of history on earth. They've surpassed their God-ordained purpose, and they refuse to let go. And I think a lot of us today, if we can be really real, I think a lot of us, even in the church, have uneasiness about this season and what this looks like. And is there even the possibility of going back to business as usual? Is it even worth it to try to go back to business as usual? Is God trying to get a hold of us and do some deeper things in us? And so these trepidations, these negative emotions, these fears, these anxieties, they want to hold on. Just like the verse says, they want to hold us and they refuse to let go. But here's the deal, guys. In the Bible, God always made knowing him a priority over knowing what he can do or knowing what he can provide. For him, it's more important that we know his character and know who he is than it is to know what he can offer. Because here's the thing, our human imaginations can come up with all kinds of, well, God can give me this and God can give me that. And what he has said across the entire narrative of the Bible is, you need to know me. You don't need to do a bunch of stuff for me. You don't need to... Here's the thing, like when we follow him, we do get the opportunity for service. We do get the opportunity to serve him and serve our neighbor and love people, and we get to teach lessons, and we get to teach all kinds of great things, and we get to feed people, and we get to do all kinds of wonderful things. But that is always secondary to God's primary calling, which is, his calling isn't for us to be a deacon or a minister or a lay leader or a husband or a wife. Or his primary calling is for each and every single one of us to know him, to know what he's like. And so this next verse, Jeremiah 50, 34. So 33 kind of paints the negative side. This exile has gone too far, too long. It's horrible. But, so I love this. He says, my people have been wronged and their captors refuse to let them go. But the one who redeems them is strong. His name is the Lord of heaven's armies. Why is that important? That word that that is translated as strong um, in the original language rather, in Hebrew, and I'm probably going to butcher this, but it says that his captors refused to let go, but their redeemer, okay, the one who is advocating for them, literally in the Hebrew, their avenger, is strong. And that word for strong is, and forgive me if anyone actually speaks Hebrew or any Semitic languages, I'm sorry, but the word strong is, I believe, chazak. And I love, so I sat down with a dictionary, and a biblical dictionary and a concordance, and looking at through the different usages of this word. Okay, the way that this is laid out in the Hebrew, it says, the one who redeems them, the one who avenges them, is mighty, he is fierce, he is hard, he is loud, he is obstinate, stubborn, bold, hot, strong, and even impudent. And if you look up what impudent means, it is someone who is disrespectful, who disregards authority, who has a total disregard for who you are or who you think you are, and he's about to tell you all your business. I don't know if you've ever been in line somewhere or at a restaurant maybe, and you've seen somebody, and you can just tell that the temper and the voice and the cadence of the words is going a certain way, and then you hear that key phrase, "Let me talk to your manager." And you're like, this is, oh Lord, this is going a bad kind of way. And you know that person is not backing down, and you know that person is going to dig their heels in and push forward and push forward and push forward until they get what they're asking for. Rather, what they're demanding. That is the picture that this phrase is painting. God is saying, I acknowledge your human circumstances, and they're horrible, and I'm so sorry. This was not my plan A, but I accounted for this because of sin, because of human free will, because of the ability to choose for God or against God. In other words, the ability to choose for goodness or against goodness. And because I accounted for these things, I also provided the solution. And here's the deal. I'm the solution. And I am mighty, fierce, hard, loud, obstinate, stubborn, bold, hot, strong, and even impudent. And here's the thing, because of the grammar of the original language, that word is used in a superlative sense. In other words, ER or EST. And so what he's actually saying is, I am the mightiest, I am the fiercest, I am the hardest, I am the loudest, I am the most obstinate, the most stubborn, the most bold, the most strong or strongest, and the most impudent. I'm getting what I want, and what I want is my kids to be okay. What I want is the freedom of my people. And I'm not backing down until I get it. That's who God is. It's really important that we know that. It's really, really important that we know that. Our thoughts lead to our beliefs, lead to our actions, lead to our habits, which leads to our character. So if you're struggling with some anxiety today and you feel like that anxiety just does not want to let go, I encourage you to read Jeremiah 50, 33 and 34 in light of that original translation. And just take that in, sit on it, meditate on it. I know a lot of people have issues with that word meditation. That just means think, ponder, repetitively, deeply. Let that thought impact you. And so take that truth that God is impudent. God is disrespectful to anything that gets between him and his kids. God is, to say it another way, ornery. God does not care who anyone thinks they are when somebody gets between him and his kids. So if you're dealing with that fear and that anxiety just doesn't want to seem to let go, just remember who God is. Remember that he's not backing down. He's not letting go. He's not giving up. He knew this was coming. He's got the solution. He is the solution. So I hope that's encouraging to some of you. I got one last thought. I picked up this I bought it a couple months ago, but I just got around to it. This great little book called The Silence of God by a German theologian, German pastor, Helmut Thielicke. And he wrote it during the period of World War II and the beginning of the Cold War, and so right in the thick of the Cold War. And so he's dealing with a lot of these same big, huge fear, anxiety issues that humans face when these big crisis events happen. And anyhow, he puts it this way. He says, anxiety at the end of the day is not an existential question. It's not about what is my purpose, what is my meaning. Ultimately, from his understanding of what the Bible says, 1 John, he says, what casts out fear or anxiety is not heroism, it's not great courage, and it's not incredible strength. It's love. Perfect love casts out all fear. And so anxiety at the end of the day is not an issue of really any material thing. It's not a material issue at all. It's a relational issue. It's, am I loved? Is there a fatherly, motherly, familial order in my life? And what we see in the Bible is, yes, there is. There's chaos in the world because our free will allows us to choose evil. But there is also a fatherly, motherly, familial order that we can opt into when we choose to follow God. Don't feel like if you're struggling with fear or anxiety that you're a bad person, you're a bad Christian, that you're weak, that you're anything. You're in great company. Let's process it together. Leave some comments, leave some questions, leave some prayer requests. I'd love to pray with you. And but let's do this together. Let's think about who God is. Let's really dig in deep and figure out who God is. He's our avenger, and he is impudent. And he's also our dad. He's going to take us by the hand, and he's going to lead us through this. So we love you. I'm going to leave it there. And we're going to keep praying, and we're going to keep waiting this out. And we're going to just taking it a day at a time. We're not traveling. We don't have any services right now, but we're taking the time to dig in, to pray, to listen, and to focus on the inner growth that I think God wants to do in each and every one of us. So we love you. We'll talk to you guys soon. And we are going to make it. So be encouraged.